Hi guys, today I'm going to be talking about the skills in Assassin's Creed Unity, which skills that I recommend you buy, how to check which sync points you need to still get, which ones are the most useful. Ultimately, you want to get all the skills at some point, but some of them are pretty difficult in terms of deciding which ones to get first. So that's what I'm going to talk about mostly today. Is I'm going to go through each one and I'm going to tell you which one I thought was useful, then the ones that I didn't think made any difference, and then show you how to actually check for which missions still have sync points outstanding, so you can go and get all your skills. So first thing you want to do is head into your character customization. Obviously go to your skills, and then of course you have your 4 different skills here, right? So I'm going to go through each one quickly. I'm not going to keep it too long, just kind of a brief one for each skill that I thought was very useful that I actually used, and then the ones that I have but I still haven't used, that I didn't find very useful. So they all look very useful and nice to have, and it's really difficult to decide which ones to buy first. So there are some like the lock picking ones you want to get as soon as you can, because they're just so useful and so important, whereas other ones like creating caches and things like that aren't as useful, and the health skills like the thick skin or the iron skin skills I didn't find made a difference at all. So fairly expensive in terms of sync points, but didn't really make a huge difference. So let's start at the top. We'll start with melee and then we'll head downwards, right? So the first one here is the long master. So again, this is going to really depend which sort of weapon that you use. So if you use the long weapons or use the heavy weapons, it probably makes sense to buy these. I didn't find they made a difference at all, but so I'd probably leave these probably till last, unless you really need them. So again, the one-handed weapon. I mean, I think we all use those one-handed weapons, and then of course we got with ground execution. We've got Staggering Strike. This one's interesting because you probably use it and not realize it. So um, yeah, I mean, so starting at the top. So I'm more of a heavy weapon guy, so I went and got this one. But I wouldn't. I don't think any of these, quite honestly, make a difference to the game, and make you better at it or anything. So I would if you needed to make a choice, choose one that you use. So if you use the one-handed, go buy the one-handed. I bought the heavy weapon master, and then the staggering strike probably makes sense to get at some point. Probably not. I'd probably leave it towards the end. There's other ones that you probably want to get sooner, right? Okay. So the next one is ranged. So let's go take a look at the ranged ones. So these are for the weapons. Again, I didn't find them made any difference whatsoever. If you're a weapons guy, maybe you found that they're more useful. I didn't use my weapon at all. I didn't think the weapons in the game were that great to begin with. Okay, Assassin's Cash. Fairly expensive. I think it was 10 sync points. I haven't used it yet, so I probably left it to last, and I guess you make caches all over the city, and then you can go back and you can get ammo, and you don't have to go and buy them. I don't think this was useful at all. So money pouch. Again, didn't find it useful at all. So in some instances, the beggars show up and you can throw the money. Not very useful skill whatsoever. So I'd leave it to last. Poison gas. You only get this at the end of sequence 9. It's probably useful to get. I was disappointed because you only get 2 poison gas pouches and they don't do a lot of damage. So if it did a lot of damage, then great, but I didn't find it did enough damage to make it. And the fact that you can only carry two poison pouches at once, just very disappointing from that perspective. So this wasn't a bad skill to get. So if you had to make a choice between that and the others that I've already talked about, this is definitely one, but you'd have to wait until sequence 9. And the one you want to get at sequence 9 is the lockpicking skill. So this is kind of your medium skills if you wanted to get it, right? This one just allows you to shoot multiple blades at the same time. Not very useful, kind of a nice to have. I left it to last just because there were other ones. I think I chose the poison gas over this one. It was this one between this one and the poison gas, and I think I went with the poison gas thinking that it would be a better choice. To be honest, maybe this one's a better one to actually get. Stun grenades, useful because when you run out of smoke bombs, then the stun grenades probably come into use. So I'd say this one is probably more useful than the rest of them. Out of all of these, I'd probably say the stun grenades is probably the most useful. The second one I'd probably say is the Phantom Blade one. Third is the poison gas, and then I'll leave these ones which I didn't find useful at all. Stealth. So some of these are the co-op ones. I found the co-op ones a little disappointing because you can only use one co-op skill at a time. So you can only have one active, and I'll talk a little bit about that after this. So I didn't find this one. I haven't used it, to be honest. So I haven't used it at all. Didn't find it useful at all. This guy's very useful. I use it all the time. Definitely one of the main ones you want to get. I don't think it was that expensive in terms of getting. You use it for a lot of missions. Unfortunately, it doesn't last very long. It's also a little confusing with the timer. The timer is actually up in the left-hand bar. It's kind of hard to tell. You can't actually see it. It's more of a sort of a bluish bar that kind of goes down. It's not a countdown or anything like that in terms of numbers, but it's kind of a little tricky to see. But once you spot it, it's fairly easy. But it only lasts for about 30 seconds. So if you go near anyone, you can walk around them and you're fine. But if you go too close to them, then it changes out of disguise. If you run, it changes out of the disguise. But a very useful skill to have, right? Because you can get in and out of doorways without being detected. You can actually jump in a window without being detected right in front of them, things like that. So definitely on the top of your list for sure. So the lock picking ones, without a doubt, are the most important in my opinion. So get the lock picking ones as soon as you can. They allow you to unlock doors. They unlock the chests, of course. I mean the red chests are worth, some of the red chests are worth like 20,000. Each, so quite a lot of money if you're looking to make some quick cash. Even the level 3 red ones are pretty tricky to unlock. So obviously the smaller the area is, the more difficult it is. So still having the lock picking skills are to me the most important ones in the game as well. So very useful to have. Unfortunately, your sequence 2 you can get number 1. That's not too bad. Shouldn't take you too long. Sequence 5 you can get number 2, and then finally this one's the longest to get, and definitely the one that you want to get as quick as you can, because it'll just help you to do missions and all sorts of things over all the rest. So definitely important to have this the lock picking skills. So this is kind of a nice to have. I mean, I use it more now just because I can jump off buildings and roll and stuff. You still tend to die if you don't remember to push the B down, but I'd suggest this is a medium, nice to have skill. I do use it. Double A assassination, I left this towards the end. Useful to have. Again, better than some of the other ones. Definitely get this after some of the other ones you need to get. The double assassination, very good one to have. So I use this one all the time, and it's definitely useful to have this. I'd say this one is better to have than the double A assassination, but really depends on how many sync points you have. If you like to do a lot of jumps and kills from roofs, then that might be your thing. Then get that one. But I found the ground one, definitely use it all the time. Environment blending, not very useful. It kind of looks useful, but there's only certain benches and places you can actually go and sit and hide in. Didn't find that useful. I would leave this until last. I hardly use it, or I never use it, to be honest. Health. Okay, so let's look at the health ones. This is kind of a neat idea. I don't think I used it. The problem with this one is you either you either have to choose the disguise one or this one. So if you're doing a co-op with a group, the disguise one you use all the time, and then to switch between them are just a pain in the ass. So it's unfortunate that they didn't have a different key or allow you to have two sort of group type skills that you could activate at the same time. Because I think this one would be pretty useful because players die all the time and it's useful running up to them. But I haven't used it too much. I tried to use it, and then whenever I wanted to use it, I either had my disguise and needed my disguise, or I didn't have it activated. So it was unfortunate. I think it's kind of a neat skill, but I haven't used it at all. So it's unfortunate. So the thick skin one, I was a little disappointed. I didn't find that my strength got any better. I got these as soon as I could. Maybe you get stronger over time, I suppose you do, but it wasn't very obvious. Obviously, these ones are easy to get and probably the ones you should get straight away. So one and two are the ones that you should get. Three and four, I didn't find didn't make any difference whatsoever. So I would leave these ones until very last, to be honest. So eventually get them, but I wouldn't rush to get them. There's definitely some better skills to have. So going through the ones quickly again. Out of all of these, I wouldn't. I mean, take your pick which ones you want. Yeah, I didn't find any ones in the melee to make much of a difference at all. In the ranged ones, I would look at the poison gas and the phantom blade one and the stun grenade. So the bottom three are probably useful. So I would get these before maybe any of the ones in the melee. So don't get in the melee and aim for it. Try and see if you can get these. I mean, they're all fairly low and sequence 9 there. In terms of the stealth ones, disguise very important. Lock picking one's very important. This one not so important. Not so important for the environmental blending. And these two are probably useful to have. So out of these ones, I'd go for these two, and the disguise ones, and the picking ones. So in the order of getting these, get the disguise, picking 1, 2, 3, and then a couple of these guys. So depending on which ones you have and how many sync points you have, you can make a decision. And then in terms of health, I wouldn't worry about the group healing at all. I'd leave it until last. I'd get 1 and I'd get 2. And I'd get the rest before I get these two, which I felt didn't make any difference whatsoever. I still die as often. I still get killed as often. So I didn't think it made a difference at all. Okay. In terms of the co-op skills, this is where you have an active skill, and it's really too bad that you can't have all of these active at the same time. But you have to choose one or the other, which is disappointing. So you go and buy these guys, and then you have to come in here and you have to change it to be active. So, these guys, you get them, but you don't really use them, which is disappointing. So, mine definitely the most used is the disguised one. I'd love to use this group healing one more, but if I had to, obviously I make a choice and I have this one as my active skill. It's really too bad. I'm sure they could have designed it better to allow you to use, or at least switch between. Most games have it allow you to switch between skills, right? I mean, they could easily have it in a wheel of some sort, or push a button twice and you get a different skill or something, right? So not well designed and unfortunate. I haven't really used any of these. I own a couple of these, but I haven't really had the opportunity to use them or found them to be useful. Maybe I just don't know how to use them to my advantage. So I've bought them, but I haven't really used them. Okay. So the easiest way to see, so the recommendation is go through the skills, play your campaign. Every campaign, you pick up sync points. Every co-op mission you pick up sync points, but there's always sync points left remaining. So if you do a co-op mission, you'd get 3 sync points if you finish the mission. So you do all the co-op, and at default you get 3. So as long as you finish the mission, you'll get 3. And then there's all the other ones that are kind of extra. So the neat thing that I like here is if you go into your progress tracker and you go to your co-op missions, for instance, you can actually see how many sync points you've got missing and how many you've actually achieved. So if you look there, I've got 4 of 4. I've got all of mine. So if you go through all of these, it tells you how many you got missing, and you'll find most of them will have like 3, and then you got 5 missing. Like for the 8 ones, for instance, you'll get 3 by finishing the mission or the co-op mission, and then you'll have 5 that's remaining. Now the very cool thing about that is you can actually replay the mission, and you can actually go, you don't actually have to finish the mission. So if you replay, you don't actually have to finish. You can just go and hunt for your missing sync points. So it's very linear in the sense that you don't actually, with a couple, exception of a couple of missions. So there are some 2 or 3 difficult ones, where you have to defend the players, the people, the ladies, or whatever you will. There's a couple of ones where you actually have to defend the armed guards and have to defend a couple of ladies, and you can't actually go straight away and hunt for the sync points. But the majority of them, you can just start the mission, and most of the sync points are, out of the way in places where there's no, you know, issues getting to them, and in some cases they are in the red zones and the blue zones, and or the conflict zones, if you will, which you have to basically go in and fight them and then go get your sync points. And some of them are really difficult to find. So I suggest you look at, there's a whole bunch of really neat YouTube videos. So just type in the mission name and put sync points, and look for the ones that are specific for that mission. They're just easier to go through. I know there is a video that covers all the sync points, but I think it's difficult to kind of scroll through it. But someone's made a video for each mission that tells you exactly where the sync points are and how you got them. So that's the easiest way to get them. You can actually come here to your progress, and you can see which sync points are missing, and there's just enough sync points to get every single skill in total. So it's kind of a cool way to actually see that. And then the very cool thing is you can actually go back and replay the mission and just go hunt for your sync points. And there's a couple, like I said, there's a couple tricky missions, like the one where you have to protect Napoleon. You definitely need a partner to get through that first section before you can go hunt for the sync points. It's better if you play with friends, because you can tell them what you're doing and why you're going and why you're not helping them finish the mission. I had to play with a couple of randoms, and they got pretty irritated because I was hunting for the sync points and they were trying to complete the mission. So it does get a little tricky in some cases, but most of them you can actually do by yourself. And some of them you have to kind of jump backwards and get, and some of them are up in towers. They're not as obvious, or they're up and behind pillars and things, so you really have to kind of look around for them and to go find them. But well worth going to find them and getting them, and find them, and so you can buy your skills. So ultimately you want to get every single skill. So I hope you found that useful. I hope I was able to help you decide which skills to buy first. Thank you for watching, and please check out my other videos.